Things are happening at Arsenal. Cruising into the Carabao Cup last 16 after smashing 2 goals past Port Vale. Today we'll break down the important details that we learned, as well as getting the breaking news ahead of Newcastle. We'll discuss the rumours regarding Saliba Yilidz, as well as revealing Arsenal's brand new exciting agreement. Yo, what is going on guys? Man, it's Basketball welcome back to your boys channel, and boy do we have a lot to break down today. From Carabao Cup success, Newcastle and a big agreement. If ever there was a time, smash a like on the video if you do enjoy and subscribe to the channel if you are new, as your boy gets closer and closer to 300,000 subscribers. But starting off with what we learned from Port Vale 0, Arsenal 2, up against League 1 opposition in the last 32 of the Carabao Cup. Another chance for Mikel Arteta to win a piece of silverware. The lineup itself was very intriguing, with the back five of Kepa, White, Saliba, Mascara and Lewis Skelly, the midfield on paper of Norgard, Merino and Nwaneri, and the front three of Saka, Eze and Martinelli. This is where Arsenal fans got a bit confused. By looking at the lineup, they thought that the striker would have been Martinelli, but instead Mikel Arteta had a different experiment in mind, using Martinelli as a starting left winger, pushing Merino as a striker, and instead experimenting Eberechi Eze as a left-sided number 8. So in a game, the Port Vale only had a 0.08 XG and Arsenal 1.04. Possession-wise, we were dominant, we had so much of the ball. And yes, I want a bit more urgency, a bit more fluency in that final third. But Eberechi Eze playing centrally was very exciting. In a game that he was named the official player of the match, as he scored his first ever Arsenal goal and dropped a 7.7 SOFA score rating, with 55 touches, 38 accurate passes, 1 successful dribble and 1 big chance missed. The goal itself was beautiful. Lewis Skelly coming into the field, a lovely flick in behind. This is what I want to see more and more from our players. Intuitive thinking, things that are not planned beforehand. But the more you feel the game, the more you understand your teammates. Lewis Skelly's understanding to know where Eze was going to be. It was the prime example of how you break down a low block. Now yes, you can talk about the fact that it was League 1 opposition, but the fact is there will be teams even in the Premier League and Champions League that will be this defensive against Arsenal going forwards. The fact then Mikel Arteta is willing to use Eze as a left number 8, this is something that of course will depend on the game states. In games where Arsenal are trying to keep it tight, Eze won't be the left number 8, but when you've got the quality of Martin Zubimendi and Declan Rice, a back four that for me is by far the best in the league, it affords you the luxury of having Eze as a midfielder as well. So on scoring his first ever Arsenal goal, as he says, it was very special. Something that I've been working towards for a long time. So I'm happy to get the first and hopefully the first of many. And it's been quite the start to his Arsenal career. From an assist on his opening appearance against Nottingham Forest, to assisting the equaliser against Man City, and now his first Arsenal goal. 3 goal contributions in just 4 games. It seems that Mikel Arteta is finally starting to understand the player more and more, saying after the game, that's what he's here for, to win football matches and to generate impact. With the creativity and the threat that he has, he should have scored another 2. Also going on to say, Eze is a player that needs to be in touch with the ball. Well, Mikel Arteta is starting to realise, Eberechi Eze is a ball-dominant player, not only super efficient whenever he receives the ball, but a player able to thrive in different parts of the pitch. Tight spaces and dribbling, he can do that. But even as shown against Man City, dropping down deeper beyond the halfway line, you're able to find a Trent Alexander-Arnold, Kevin De Bruyne pass in behind. Arsenal do have a bit of a unicorn profile, a creator that has so many different traits in his arsenal. This may have just been League 1, but having seen the impact against Man City and against Nottingham Forest, going into Newcastle where Eberechi Eze needs to be a guaranteed starter. But in a game that you also had Gabriel Martinelli starting as a left winger, dropping a 6.6 SOFA score rating, 1 successful dribble, 24 passes and 0 key passes, without a single shot on target. This is where Mikel Arteta is going to need to make a change. For a player that has scored back-to-back goals off the bench for Arsenal, looking more and more like the perfect finisher, there's a reason why they both came centrally. The more that Arsenal fans have watched Martinelli over the years, the more we've realised that he is not a touchline wide forward. Without the creative Arsenal to beat his man in different ways, Martinelli is at times a very one-dimensional dribbler. So even up against League 1 opposition, how many times did he actually test his fullback and beat him? But where the problem actually lies is less the player's quality and more the use of his profile. Unlike Eze, this is a player that needs to have less of the ball, rely more on his instincts when it comes to finishing, whether it was the goal against Bilbao or the goal against Man City. Because it was so quick, because he had no time to think, we saw the real quality of where Martinelli thrives. That's what Mikel Arteta is now going to have to think. How can he get Martinelli in more centrally, combined with Eberechi Eze, and how does he then solve that left-hand side? And who is the player that holds the width on the left-hand side? But you also had 15-year-old Max Down break another Arsenal record. A week after becoming Arsenal's youngest ever under-21 goal scorer, he is now also our youngest ever player to play in the Carabao Cup. Coming off the bench with 30 minutes to play, dropping a 6.5 SOFA score rating, 17 out of 17 passes, 1 key pass, 2 accurate long balls. As soon as he came on, there was that one moment straight away where a Port Vale player tried to barge into him, tried to intimidate him, and Dalman just brushed him aside like he was nothing. There is no way that a player only 15 years of age, still at school by the way, should be this physically ready at this age. But then watching that pass in behind to Victor Gyökeres, as well as a sublime flick as well. Darwin's a player that is growing more and more on an Arsenal shirt, and you could see the way he was drifting over to the left hand side. He wants the ball as much as possible and the players are not scared to pass it to him. They trust that he has the quality and they can see the ability, as Mikel Arteta says, on how older players react to getting nutmegged by Max Darwin in training. At the beginning they responded immediately, kick him. That was the first one, and Max, to be fair, he was excellent, stood up and got up for the next one. You can really take it personally. Someone who was just only 14 last year, at some point when he was doing certain things to players, and now everybody loves him. You just want to hug him and help him. This is a player that knows how good he is. He has got that raw level of footballing arrogance. So as also progressing to the last 16 of the Carabao Cup, I expect to see more and more of Max Darwin. That first start is indeed around the corner. But in terms of the performance itself, no, it wasn't amazing. Yes, we could have scored more goals and had more intent. But the main point is that Arsenal have got through, they've got the job done and kept a clean sheet. This was less of an excellent performance and more a professional. And as pointed out here by Alex Moneypenny, if Arsenal played the rest of the season at this rate and got to the final of each major competition, they would have conceded only 8 open play goals in total. I know we're a bit frustrated to watch right now, but that is some record. The defence, of course, is a strong point. So for an Arsenal squad that, even with the injuries, still got the job done, went to a League One ground and progressed, you only have to look at Man United to say sometimes these games can be tricky. Even for Arsenal back in the day under Arsene Wenger, from losing 3-0 against Sheffield Wednesday, even losing to Bradford City, these games may look easy on paper, but having experienced that pain back in the day, I am taking my 2-0 and I'm walking into the last 16, where Arsenal come up against Brighton at the Emirates Stadium, with Man City up against Swansea, a massive game for Newcastle against Tottenham, Liverpool up against Crystal Palace, and Chelsea up against Wolves away. But now a word from today's sponsor, Betmate. They are back again with another free-to-play pot up for grabs. Fantasy football, but with real prices. There was actually a pot for Man City, and we won't talk about where your boy finished, but number one walked away with a very decent prize. And now there's another pot live for Newcastle. And it's very simple to join once you have scanned the QR code or use the link in the description to download and sign up. As you get to this home screen here, you go to the top right hand side of the search bar, you put in the code BAVS14-07. Once you're in, of course, as you can see, 7 players in that starting lineup, and you can pick a maximum of 6 players per club. Goalkeeping wise, you know I'm going to go for David Raya because he keeps clean sheets. In front of him, the first defender has to be Gabriel Magalhaes because he's going to start and he's going to get you goals. And you know what? I'm also going to go for Ricardo Calafuri because I think he might even get an assist. The first midfielder for me is going to be Eberici Eze. He is going to start, in my opinion, and more importantly, 3 goal contributions the last 4 games. Next to him, I'm going to go for Declan Rice because from corners can get you an assist and get you points there as well. The first forward I'm going to go for is Bukayo Saka because it's his first game back. He's going to start and I think he can even score. And next to him, I'm actually going to go for Anthony Gordon. Reason being, of course, he's back from suspension and a point to prove as well. Now that my bench is selected, my team is ready to go, I've saved the changes and I've entered the pots. So if you want to get involved and compete against your boy, download Betmate for the link in my description or scan the QR code on screen right now. The pot, of course, is completely free to play. And hopefully this time I don't finish 22nd. But moving on to the breaking Arsenal news. As Arsenal approach yet another gargantuan game up against Newcastle at St James's Park, for a side that have made a very poor start to the season, currently sat 13th in the table, with only 1 win, 3 draws and 1 loss, having scored only 3 goals all season. They are also very good defensively, but when it comes to that goal scoring with no Alexander Isak, for Arsenal it's a chance to go out there and make a big statement. But in terms of the team news and which players are going to be available, after Noni Madueke's first off injury against Man City, Arsenal have recorded at least 1 injury in every league game this season, with only 12 goals being scored by Arsenal forwards since March, as well as 12 injuries to Arsenal players in 2025. Madueke, of course, will miss at least 6 to 8 weeks as confirmed by Sami Mokbel. But with the return of Bukayo Saka, the availability of Ethan Nwaneri, and of course Max Darwin, we have options there and I'm not even that worried. But even in terms of the players that aren't playing, take for example Piero Nkapia, as Mikel Arteta confirms, he's also picked up a little groin injury. We'll have to assess him again in the next few days to see how he goes. There has been a change of load, and he didn't really have a pre-season after the surgery. We'll have to see in the next week or so how he is. Maybe no Nkapia, of course no Madueke, and even in terms of forward Kai Havertz, as Mikel Arteta confirms, with Kai we know it will be months with him. I don't know if it can be weeks. You never know because this is Kai and he's a different specimen. We really miss him, and hopefully he'll be back soon. But going into a game that of course Arsenal lost last season, Isak scoring the only goal in the first half, and Arsenal unable to break them down, I do expect a very similar game plan from Eddie Howe this time round. Knowing that Arsenal of course struggle with the mid-blocks, we saw even Pep Guardiola do that, because Newcastle won't be scared to give Arsenal the ball. With the pace of Elanga on the break and the returning Anthony Gordon after serving his 3-match suspension, this is where I'm very intrigued to see how Mikel Arteta is going to play. Is he going to have the returning Martin Odegaard? And is he going to start Eberici Eze as a number 10? Because yes, in previous big away games he has gone for Mikel Merino, but having seen it not work against Man City and against Liverpool, it's time to give Eze his central opportunity. Could this be the potential Arsenal lineup? Raya and go on a back 4 of Timber, Saliba, Gabriel and Calafuri, the midfield trio of Zubimendi, Rice and Eze, and the front 3 of Gyökeres, Saka and Martinelli. It is a game that I think will be tight and I'll be very surprised if there's a lot of goals. And it might be yet another game for an Arsenal finisher coming off the bench. Because after Leandro Trossard scored a second goal against Port Vale to win Arsenal the tie, that is now the third game running that an Arsenal sub is scored coming off the bench. The finishes are becoming more and more important. With the size of the Arsenal squad despite the injuries, we still have players that are able to come off the bench and make an impact. The question of course will go towards Mikel Arteta. Newcastle away has never been easy, but are you going to play with the handbrake? Because when he was asked about Max Dowman and if he would feature for Arsenal against Port Vale, he replied jokingly, "It depends, I might put the handbrake on," showing that Mikel is clearly aware of all the comments and all the narratives. But after fiercely defending his tactics against Man City, talking about how attacking his starting lineup was, for Arsenal fans actions are going to be a lot louder than words. Having failed to win at Anfield and failed to beat Man City, even if we are so early into the season, Liverpool have already gone to St James's Park and got the 3 points. So for Arsenal mentally it's then even more important that we also go and collect those 3 points. But now let's talk about the big Arsenal agreement. In the case of the future of Arsenal centre-back William Saliba, there was of course a lot of worrying after it was confirmed by Fabrizio Romano that Real Madrid saw him as a prime target going into the summer. He was a player out of contract in 2027, but then you had the reports that came out saying that Real Madrid know that Saliba would like to play for Real Madrid one day, but they are not sure if they can get him to leave Arsenal before 2027. Kylian Mbappe and his clan are also working on a case behind the scenes, with people close to Mbappe sending messages to Saliba that he would be welcome in Madrid. A club that loves to use the media as mind games. We saw it with Trent Alexander-Arnold, we see it with Ibrahima Konate. But as much as you want a little bro Liverpool, when it comes to Arsenal and Real Madrid, we have a very decent history, from beating them last year in back-to-back games, to now the future of William Saliba. As a David Ornstein bomber confirmed, William Saliba commits future to Arsenal after agreeing a 5-year contract. The 24-year-old centre-back entered the final 2 years of his previous deal, plus Real Madrid among suitors, but the France international wanted to stay at Arsenal and expected to sign till 2030. And you know what? Low-key, it's never been in doubt. For a player that celebrates every single Arsenal goal, as if he is the biggest ever Arsenal fan, even when he was asked back in the summer on if he was going to sign the new deal, Saliba's response was hopefully soon and God is great. This year we'll try to win everything. For a player that so many reports have confirmed is in love with London and in love with Arsenal, we've seen the photos of him as a young Arsenal fan. We know how much the club means to him, but more importantly, he also sees potential. As Fabrizio Romano also confirmed, Saliba is on the verge of signing a new long-term deal with Arsenal after improved proposal. Arsenal sent new contract terms in August, assessed by Saliba and his agent in recent weeks. Saliba now close to accepting and getting it sealed. For a man whose Arsenal career really started in 2022-23, the numbers themselves are so telling. With him in the team, 104 games and a 67% win percentage, conceding only 0.8 goals per game, with 8.9 shots conceded per game, and a whopping 2.2 points per game. He is also the only player to be named in a PFA Premier League Team of the Year in each of the last 3 seasons. And for Arsenal, we are now incredibly blessed, having seen Gabriel Magalhaes also sign a brand new long-term contract. The idea of Saliba and Gabriel being at Arsenal for the long-term futures, it's a sight that brings safety to your boys' hearts. And according to the Hand of Arsenal, Gabriel Magalhaes and William Saliba had numerous discussions together regarding the future at Arsenal, with both players agreeing to stay at the club to win trophies. And that itself is very important and very exciting, because it shows that even our most in-demand stars, despite of all the narratives outside the club, still have a sense of belief that they will get over the line. The likes of Saliba and Gabriel could easily go elsewhere and win those trophies, but they know what they've built at Arsenal. They of course trust Mikel Arteta, and having seen us spend so much money last summer, that of course would have played a major factor. Players seeing that the club are still willing to invest, because they are convinced they will get over the line. As Fabrizio Romano confirms, Saliba's new contract at Arsenal will be valid until June 2030, a whopping 5-year deal. Let's just say Andrea Berta is not messing about. Forget your 3 years plus 1. Here's a 5-year contract on the table, your future's at Arsenal, and don't mess about with it. After a very important summer where he got so many players over the line, not only has the Arsenal squad become so much stronger, but brand new contracts with Gabriel Magalhaes, William Saliba, Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan Wane, as confirmed by the Hand of Arsenal. Even after Bukayo Saka, there's one more after that. I think the real point here is that Andrea Berta doesn't rest. A man on a mission to not only retain what Arsenal have, but to also help build a culture. The focus now of course turns to Bukayo Saka's future. With Saliba staying and Gabriel staying, it's only a matter of time before Bukayo Saka of course gets that deal signed as well. But in terms of Arsenal and their wide forwards, having seen Gabriel Martinelli struggle once again on that left-hand side, looking more and more suited to being a finisher coming off the bench. According to reports in Italy, Arsenal have held exploratory talks regarding Kenan Yildiz, and are crazy about the player. Juventus' financial situation means every player has a price, with Yildiz valued around 80 to 90 million euros. Arsenal are prepared to offer around 60 million euros plus Leandro Trossard. Now this is a rumour that got your boy very excited, not because I think it's reliable, but because I think the player himself could be fantastic. 20 years of age, thriving in the Serie A, for a player that Juve of course picked off the Bayern Munich Academy after a breakthrough year in 2022-23, where he only scored 4 goals, but in the following year 12 goals in all competitions, with already 2 goals so far this season. In the Serie A so far this year, he's created the most chances with 11, the most big chances, and has the most assists, with no player being directly involved with more goals. At just 20 years of age, when I've seen his ball striking playing from wide, he is not what I describe as a touchline wide forward, but he is a player that if Arsenal can offload a Gabriel Martinelli or Leandro Trossard, would have so much potential coming into Arsenal. The price tag of course is going to matter, and the transfer window isn't even open. But let's just say a team comes in big for Trossard or Martinelli. Is Yildiz a player that you would take at the Emirates Stadium? But that is the video there and there, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed. Don't forget to smash a like if you did, and also subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you want to follow your boy on all of the social medias, and the links are down below in the description. But that was all of your latest Arsenal news today: the Port Vale breakdown, the Newcastle preview, and more importantly, the Saliba agreement. Massive news from Arsenal. And now on to Newcastle. Let's get the 3 points and make a statement, my friends. I'll see you next time. Take care. In a bit.